All right, good morning, everyone. This is Nithin Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 814. I'm joined by a really special guest. His name is Bill Pidto. He works for MSC Network. He's a sports anchor. He covers the Knicks, the Rangers, pre and post game, and he's known for his MSC 150 when he goes over the highlights. He does a great job. He's one of the best, in my opinion, in the business when it comes to covering sports. And it's truly an honor to have him on the show today, Bill. Thank you again. And how are you and your family doing today?
Everything's good, Nathan. I'm glad the cleaning lady has finished the work so we can go ahead with the interview here. You never want to do an interview when you got the cleaning lady with the vacuum cleaner making noise, correct?
Yeah, correct. So I want to start off with your childhood growing up. And when did you start realizing that you wanted to be in the sports industry, being and like covering sports? But did you get to play any sports growing up too?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Manhattan. So my first exposure to sports, and the reason why working at MSG Network is so special for me is because my first exposure was watching the Knicks championship teams in the early 1970s.
Oh.
I was a little boy in Manhattan. My family, my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, cousins, all native New Yorkers in the tri-state area. We moved west when I was 7 to Palo Alto, California, where I became the shortest point guard in the history of the Santa Clara Valley Athletic League. Actually, in high school, I was on a basketball team at Palo Alto High School with Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, wow.
Everybody knows Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of playing time my junior year, but he was the star of our team as a senior. And he was the most competitive person any of us have ever seen. So it's no surprise being around him as a young kid that he went on to an NFL career and has had a very interesting coaching career. So then I went to Cornell. My dad's a Cornell grad. I went to Cornell. I graduated in 1987. And after that, I started my broadcasting career.
So while you were growing up, did you have like a role model that you looked up to in the industry when it comes to broadcasters or reporters?
You know, it's interesting. I was always a huge sports fan. In fact, the first thing that I was able to read was the New York Times sports page. I used to watch Mets games, Kiner's Corner, as a young kid. I'll never forget watching those with my father. I always paid attention to who the announcers were. I always wanted to know who was doing the games. And as a young kid in California, after we moved, the guy I listened to the most, and I don't know if your viewers or listeners have heard of him, but Bill King was the voice of the Warriors. He used to call the Warrior games on radio and TV, a simulcast. Wow. He was the most remarkable play-by-play radio NBA announcer I've ever heard. So that was the guy that we listened to in the car. We used to go to Warrior games and listen to him. I'd do the post-game show on the way home. I was also out there when John Miller was the voice of the Giants. He's a legendary baseball broadcaster. And even Al Michaels stopped through there. So there were a lot of people that I listened to. When I watched network football on Sundays, I always paid attention to who was doing the games, but I would say Bill King was the person that I listened to the most as a young boy.
So for you, when was the first time that you picked up the microphone, and what were the main things that you learned in high school and college that became that became the broadcaster that you are today?
So the first day that I got to Cornell, I went to the student radio station, WVBR, and I got on the air there reading sportscasts. Used to get up once or twice a week at 5 a.m. to do the morning sports. And that was a huge experience, great experience, because you're writing a script and you're pulling sound off of these now antiquated tape machines for sound bites of the stories that you're writing about. I was involved with the Cornell basketball team radio broadcast and football team radio broadcasts as a second announcer, which was a great experience. And then what was really important to me was that when I was going to my senior year at Cornell, the summer prior to that, the city of Ithaca started a local newscast. And I was the sportscaster on that the summer before my senior year. And then during my senior year, I actually was a sportscaster with Carl Ravitch on that channel, believe it or not. Yeah. And that was what allowed me to have the TV experience necessary to have a resume tape to get my first job in Binghamton. So Carl Ravitch and I actually worked together in Ithaca and then worked together at WBNG, the CBS affiliate in Binghamton, New York. I got hired there first as a weekend guy. When the main guy left, I got that job, and Carl got the weekend job. So
Oh.
Trey Wingo, believe it or not, was in the market at that time at another station. So the three of us all go way back.
I had Trey Wingo on the show last year. He was awesome to talk to, and he's a great, obviously a great reporter out there too. And would you say that Cornell and Ithaca College are the two of the best media colleges out there right now?
I would say that the college is secondary to your experience. Syracuse obviously is great with the reputation, but this is not something that you need to learn in the classroom. For all of you young people out there that want to do this, you have to get practical experience. You obviously need a degree. You need to be able to write. You need to be able to process information, but the most important thing is practical experience. So when I went to enter this career, I don't know that being from Cornell obviously didn't hurt, but it matters how you sound and what you look like as opposed to where you went to school.
So I want to ask you, how grateful are you that you got the Knicks opportunity? How did that come about? And how great, when you got the Knicks opportunity, what was the feeling like?
So it's the summer of 2009. I had been at ESPN from 93 to 08. Mm-hmm. I was working, I was doing a midday shift on Mad Dog Radio with Bruce Murray. The name of the show was the B Team on the Mad Dog channel there. And I got my agent represented Kenny Albert, so he knew the people that hire at MSG, and they needed a host. And I was hired prior to the 09-10 season. And to work at MSG is to work in the Hall of Fame of sportscasting. I cannot tell you, Nathan, what it is like to go to work every day. And this year, the Knicks broadcasters didn't travel. So Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier are calling the road games from a set, right next to our pre and post game set. Wow. Clyde Frazier's a hero in my family. Those Knicks teams back in the 70s transcended just basketball fans to the point that my mom loved Clyde Frazier. She always used to say, Billy, the beauty about Clyde Frazier is he never breaks a sweat.
Right.
I see him at work every day. And I see Mike Breen, who's in the Hall of Fame. And on the Rangers side, we have Hall of Famer Sam Rosen. Mm-hmm. Kenny Albert, just hired by TNT as their number one hockey announcer. He's got a huge national reputation, does all kinds of things nationally. The people I work with on the Knicks, Wally Zerbiak works on CBS. Alan Hahn does ESPN radio. So my point to you is I've always loved the Knicks. It's a dream to be affiliated with them in terms of being the pre and the post game host, but also to go to work every day and work with and around these great people has just been a tremendous, tremendous experience.
Yeah. So speaking of it, networking connections is really important in this industry to have a lot of connections and support. And I had the opportunity to talk to Alan Hahn too last year on the show. He's one of the best out there. And not only them, also Monica McNutt. She's another one that you work with, and she's really inspiring. And what's it like just to share relationships and stories with them? And like you said, always good to go to work with them every day, and just to be back now in the stadium and working together.
Well, one of the things we got a lot of mileage out of for those that watch the Knicks pre and post game show was Alan Hahn being in the basement all year.
Yeah,
because of COVID. But during the playoffs, he was able to come into the studio with Monica. And I just my approach is to just try to have fun. I try to tweak these guys. I try to bust some chops. I don't take myself seriously. I don't want to take my co-hosts and analysts seriously. So that's kind of like my approach. And that's what I try to do. And it was easier to do when everybody was in the studio for the playoffs, which was the case against the Hawks in the first round.
Yeah, would you say your experience? What would you like? What was your experience like at ESPN? I should say, and what did you like about working with ESPN? And there's a lot of great ESPN anchors out there too. But when you were there from 93 to 08, what did you experience?
So I got in there, and what's interesting to pay back the Ravage stories, we auditioned against each other in 93, and they hired him for SportsCenter in February 93. I got hired for ESPN2 in August of 93. I was on the original Sports Night show on ESPN2 that launched in October of 93 with Stuart Scott, who was an update anchor. I was basically an update anchor. Keith Olbermann was on there, Susie Colbert, Mitch Albom, and Deb Placey. So that was the initial six who were hired. Kenny Mayne came in about a year after that. ESPN2 then kind of merged with ESPN. I had a huge experience in 95 and 96 on NFL primetime with Chris Berman, which will probably go down in history as the highest rated cable studio sports show in the history of the medium. You know, back in that era, there's no internet, there's no red zone, there's no Twitter. When you're on from 7 to 8 in the middle 90s doing NFL highlights, we had like 5-6 million viewers.
Oh, wow.
Which I don't think has been matched. I don't think will ever be matched for a studio show. That was an incredible experience. I was in the Sports Center rotation for a number of years. I was the original host of NHL Tonight. So I had a full experience there for 15 years. I met a lot of great people. And I think history will look back, Nathan, on the 90s as the pinnacle of Sports Center, the pinnacle of what we were doing. Again, it was the only way. If you were a Tigers fan, you had to watch the 11 o'clock Sports Center to find out if they won.
Yeah.
Hard for people to believe. There was no internet. There was no Twitter. There weren't all these other channels. So when you're on ESPN in that era, man, that was a special time. And I will always remember that. And I had a great 15 years there. And I met a lot of great people that I'm still in touch with.
Yeah, speaking of Stuart Scott, the late Stuart Scott, obviously it's tragedy what happened. And obviously he's known for Booyah, his saying. And what was it like just working with him and getting to know him in as a person, as a friend, as a person, he's a family person too. So he's loyal. And what did you learn from him?
So of all the people, Nathan, that I've worked with, the two people that light up the studio the most, you know, the studio is nothing happening until the people sit down and light it up.
Yeah.
Chris Berman, Stuart Scott, two most electric personalities that I've ever been around. And the one thing I'll never forget about Stuart is that he was confident from the get-go. A lot of people get to ESPN and are in awe of the environment. They're scared to be themselves. They're lacking confidence, and it hurts how they start. Stuart Scott stuck to his guns. You go over the history. His style was not initially embraced by management, but he stuck to it, and he became a transcendent personality because he stuck to how he thought it should be done. And he resonated and appealed to a demographic that had never been catered to. It was a brilliant approach, and he was so smart to stick to how he wanted to do it.
So now, obviously, you started with the Knicks in 2009, and over the years, you guys been through the ups and downs with the Knicks roster and the struggles. And what do you like about the growth now? Growth from when you started to now, and obviously they're in the playoffs this year. They're back, and what do you like about the Knicks' growth?
Got a great coach.
Yeah,
Tom Thibodeau just named Coach of the Year.
Yep.
This is one of the most phenomenal coaching jobs I've ever seen. We talk about it. You go back to the starting five last year on a David Fizdale when they had Marcus Morris. It may have been a better starting five than they had this year. Mitch Robinson only played in 35 games. Thibodeau got these guys to buy in terms of defensive effort, intensity every night. They didn't take any games off. There's no such thing as load management. These guys play 40, 45 minutes a game. Julius Randle took the next step. Thibodeau got him to buy in. RJ Barrett took the next step. They got tremendous contribution from guys who bought into the roles like Reggie Bullock and Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks.
Yeah.
I think now you go out and get a good starting point guard, and then you can take the next step.
All right, that's where the next question comes out. So one of my friends wants to know, do you think this obviously the Knicks offseason, this is a huge offseason for the Knicks in my opinion, but my friend Julian wants to know, do you think the Knicks will get Damian Lillard this year?
Well, we talk about it. He's 31. He's owed 3 years on a contract at like $100 zillion. You might have to give up 2-3 number one draft picks, Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a tough call. If you can give up, if you can get Dame Lillard for that, I think you might have to think about it.
Yeah, so you should check out their shows. They're from Grunt Talk, Sports Talk. My friend Julian, they do a great job with their shows. And but overall, so this Knicks season, what do you like about the Knicks season? Obviously in the playoffs and last year with the bubble situation, and what did you guys learn as a reporter and a journalist and a broadcaster from last year when the sport shut down, and but till from then to now, and seeing fans finally back in the stadium?
I think that everything's trending in the right direction. You know, I think the Hawks series that just completed will be remembered for a near return to normalcy. What's ironic is that the Hawks game last March was the last game of the regular season and kind of signaled the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now the Hawks series, hopefully, will schedule or will signify the return to normalcy. So as an industry, we were able to get through this. Our announcers didn't travel, but the product was excellent. I think the TV industry has gone through a little bit of a revolution in response to the pandemic. We'll see what it looks like now going forward. But this team was a joy to watch. And what I loved, and I mentioned it before, is that there's no such thing with the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau, no such thing as load management.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing. There's no, right knee soreness, needs to rest. They just play. They play hard. They play with passion. And they were a really easy team to embrace and fall in love with.
Yeah. So I'm just curious. I want to get your take on this. Obviously, we have a great coaching staff, and Kenny Payne. I think he deserves a head coaching job. And what are your thoughts on him? Do you think he'll get it this time, this round of coaching, or do you think he'll eventually get one?
I don't know. He may be more suited and more comfortable doing what he does. I think he may have been in the conversation with DePaul to go to there as a head coach. But look, Julius Randle loves him. All the Kentucky guys love him. You have to give him credit for how Randle developed because of their experience together. He's known these guys since they were young kids at Kentucky. He's a great developer of talent. That is clear. And he is a really valuable asset. Some people are better suited to do that than take the pressure and the reins as a head coach. I don't know what his ambitions are, but what a great ad and what a great fit with the Knicks.
Yeah. So my other friend James has a question for you too. He wants to know how did he get started, and what's the future of the Knicks?
How did I get started?
Yeah.
So I got started, as I've mentioned, in Binghamton, New York. I got my first job out of college as a weekend sportscaster there. And, a lot of perseverance, a lot of resume tapes mailed out over the years. I went to Syracuse after about 2 years. I was in Boston for a little bit, and then I got the audition that I mentioned to you at ESPN, and ultimately got hired for ESPN2. In 2009, I joined MSG after leaving ESPN in 2008. And what's ahead for the Knicks, I think, is great things. The coach is great. They buy into the coach. They work hard. Need a point guard, a pass first point guard. To me, quickly, as a shoot first guy off the bench, good asset, but not a ball handler or distributor. Derrick Rose is not somebody that looks to pass first. He looks to strive and score first. I think they need a pass first point guard that can pass, that can also shoot from the outside.
So not only you cover the Knicks, you cover the Rangers, and obviously a disappointing season. And what do you think the Rangers are? This is a big offseason, another big offseason for the Rangers because they're looking for a new coach now. What do you think the Rangers will do this offseason? What's the future for them?
Well, they need a coach to continue to develop this young core. I think the one thing they got to go after is a physical presence, veteran presence. One of the things that didn't go well is they were kind of pushed around in some key games, specifically against the Islanders. I think that they have a core. Adam Fox, by the way, was just nominated for the Defensive Player of the Year. He had the Norris Trophy had a phenomenal year. They have the young pieces in place to take the next step. These guys just have to develop. And I also think they need some veteran leadership. Also, I think the goalie question is a little bit of a question mark with the two guys there who may not be the long-term answer. I think we took Henrik Lundqvist for granted. I think his greatness, when you see it every night, you expect the other players and other goalies to be as good as he was, and that's just not the case. I think we all learned that Henrik Lundqvist is a 1 in a million goalie, and if we had any doubt, we just had to watch this last season.
Mm-hmm. So for you, when obviously with the Knicks season over and the Rangers season over, what have you been doing now? Obviously, you've been watching the NBA playoffs for sure, I'm sure. But do you start working on the net for next season, getting ready with the
trying not to get? I'm just trying not to get fat eating my wife's cooking. I'm just grateful for some time off to recharge. What was interesting, Nathan, is this year was a condensed schedule.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of days of work. I'm grateful for that, but not a lot of time to chill out. So I'm going to try to relax here for another couple months try not to gain too much weight and get ready for the next season.
So now we do this fun little segment here, a little quick hit segment called Rapid Fire. You ready for this?
I am. Yep.
All right. What would you say your most memorable MSG 150 you've done in your career?
Oh, the most memorable 150 I've ever done. There was this past year, a AAA Vegas hockey team has a guy that comes down and blows the horn.
Mm-hmm.
And we played that. And then when we came out of that, I actually blew the horn on the air. I've also adopted some of the Gen X lingo, like no cap or high key, low key. And I sprinkled that stuff into some of the hockey segments, and some of the young viewers have gotten a kick out of that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I know, no, Craig Sager has the best style. The late Craig Sager has the best stylist when it comes to suits. He's a top. But would you say Clyde Frazier? Does he beat out some of the NBA players now?
He was amazing, but Clyde Frazier would have to be in the conversation. I'll tell you that.
So, what do you say? But would you say he beats out some of the NBA players now, like Westbrook or Harden or?
Yeah, I like Craig Sager had incredible style. All of these guys have incredible style. If you ask Wally Zerbiak, I have terrible style. So I guess I got a lot to learn.
Funniest person that you work with right now?
Mike Breen is hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know if it comes through all the time. You know, he used to be on a morning radio show with Don Imus back on WFAN. Where he almost made a mockery of the sportscast. He was a sportscaster. He is hilarious. He's sarcastic and really, really funny. I don't know if it always comes through on the games, but he is funny.
Favorite memorable game that you covered in your career with Knicks and the Rangers?
So for the Rangers, I was in the studio doing shows during the Cup final run in 2014. That was absolutely something I'll never forget. The Knicks show that I will never forget last year was when we had to come on after the death of Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
We were early that night at 6 o'clock pregame, and he died. We got the news of his death. And remember, that's on the West Coast. It was like 3 o'clock Eastern time to scramble together with our crew and our production team to put together the show and get through that. That was a huge, huge thrill under very difficult circumstances.
So what are you most looking forward to for next season when you guys get back to work? Especially in the off season, when the NBA free agency is one of the best in my opinion. What are you just most looking forward to seeing the Knicks improve on for next season?
Well, hopefully everybody will be in the studio, which will be great for our show. And I hope that the Knicks, as I mentioned, I think if they have the 19th pick, the 21st pick, and the 32nd pick, so you got potentially major additions coming through the draft. Maybe they package some of those picks for a player. Again, get a point guard, get a top flight point guard that can start. That's what I hope to see, and I think that's what will be most important.
Who do you have in the NBA Finals?
Well, I was going to say the Clippers.
Yeah.
I hate to say this. I think the Nets are going to beat whoever comes out of the West. I'd like to see Nets Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of how the Nets were put together. And I've talked about how the Knicks play every night. Obviously, some of those guys have been hurt. They don't play every single game. I don't like when players demand trades and but the Nets, they're incredibly talented. So they may end up winning it all, and that would be something that I would hope wouldn't happen. But I think they're going to be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, how my friend Julian said about the Damian question. But if the Knicks do not get Damian, who do you think will be the starting point guard for the Knicks?
You know, Lonzo Ball might be a good pick. Some of our guys like Spencer Dinwiddie.
Okay.
He's been out with a knee injury. He was really good with the Nets. He might be a good ad. Lonzo Ball, maybe get somebody in the draft, although I think you'd have to move up. I think Dinwiddie might be a good pick there.
And he's working hard. I think he's working hard this off season, and I see his Instagram posts. I think he'll be back, hopefully 100%. But for you, what would you say? What's it like now? MSG, Madison Square Garden, one of the best. And what do you like about this year's play with the atmosphere, with fans back, and and the fans know how to light it up in Madison Square Garden.
So when they won game 2,
Yeah.
there was so much celebration outside. Our studio's across the street. They had to shut down 7th Avenue.
Wow.
It was incredible. There's nothing like the Knicks fan, and there's nothing like the Knicks fan when the Knicks are competitive and winning. So that's what I'm hopeful about going forward. The fans were just incredible during the playoffs, and hopefully it will continue next year.
Yeah, the last 2 things here before I let you go. This is our team is part of this foundation called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe and the kids stay safe. So I'll send you the page. You can go check it out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers?
Yeah, we were really going through a terrible time, obviously. And I know on our shows last summer, we went out of our way to thank everybody that helped keep us safe, put their lives at risk for everybody. Grateful to all the support from the essential workers, healthcare workers, and hopefully the worst is behind us as a country. And hopefully we are past the worst of all that has happened.
Yeah, well said. And there it is. That wraps up episode 814 with the great Bill Pidto. You can go find him on MSG Network. He covers the Knicks, Rangers. He works with a lot of great people around him, and obviously a Hall of Famer and Mike Breen and Sam Rosen. Go follow him on all social media formats. Thank you again. This has been an honor, and we would like to have you back as a returning guest at some point so you can meet the full team. But good luck the rest of the way. Hopefully the Knicks have a good offseason, and hopefully Rangers and Knicks are back to winning again. So
awesome.
You and your family be safe.
Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to come on. It was great to meet you, and good luck with the podcast.
Thank you.